In the dead of night, a fortress of American steel was about to get a wake-up call. The invaders weren't a foreign enemy, though. They were a team of elite U.S. Navy SEALs on a classified mission. Their job was to become the Navy's own worst nightmare. They would infiltrate, sabotage, and hijack America's most sensitive assets, all to reveal a terrifying truth. The deadliest threat to the fleet was already inside the gates. This is the story of Red Cell, the SEAL team that went rogue to prove a point, and succeeded so spectacularly that the Navy tried to bury them for it. The year is 1984. The Cold War is still simmering, and terrorist threats are on the rise. The U.S. Navy feels pretty good about itself, believing its bases are impenetrable fortresses. But one man at the Pentagon isn't sleeping so well. Vice Admiral James Ace Lyons, the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations, has a nagging feeling that the Navy's confidence is a huge blind spot. He needs to know for sure, and to find out, he needs someone who thinks like the bad guys. That someone was Richard Dick Marcinko. As the founder and first commander of the legendary SEAL Team 6, Marcinko was a controversial, no-nonsense warrior known for getting things done, no matter how brutal. Having just left his command at 6, Admiral Lyons gives him a brand new, unheard-of task: build a team whose only job is to break the Navy's security. Marcinko's orders were simple: think like a terrorist, act like a terrorist, and smash every rule in the book to show the Navy just how vulnerable it really was. He calls his new unit the Naval Security Coordination Team, or OPI-06D, but they'd become infamous by their call sign, Red Cell. The name itself was a challenge. In military war games, the blue team is friendly and the red team is the enemy. Marcinko handpicked his operators, nearly all of them combat-hardened veterans from SEAL Team 6, and laid out their mission. You are no longer the good guys. Your job is to prove that everything the Navy thinks is safe, its bases, its ships, its secrets, and its people, is a target waiting to be hit. Red Cell didn't exactly ease into their new role. They exploded into it. They saw the entire U.S. Navy as their personal testing ground, and every base was a target. Their methods were unbelievably bold. Using fake IDs, stolen uniforms, and just pure nerve, they would walk right past guards and into the most secure areas. For their first big test, they aimed for a hugely important target: Naval Submarine Base New London in Connecticut, the home of the submarine force. In June 1985, Red Cell got to work. Their recon was as cheeky as it was effective. At one point, team members sailed a small boat right up to the submarine support facility, flying a Soviet flag, and started openly taking pictures of the dry docks. Guards saw them, but did absolutely nothing. The enemy was literally at the gates, waving its own flag, and not a single alarm went off. With the base's weak spots mapped out, the real assault began. Red Cell operators moved like ghosts. They hit the ordnance facility, the hospital, and the communications center, leaving behind little markers to show that the facilities had been destroyed. But they were saving the best for last: a Los Angeles-class nuclear attack submarine, one of the most advanced weapons on the planet, tied up at the pier. The operators slipped onto the sub and deep into its classified guts. They navigated its corridors, bypassed security, and got to the one place an enemy should never, ever be: the control room. There, they planted a simulated bomb. The message couldn't have been clearer. If Red Cell had been a real terrorist team, a billion-dollar warship and its entire crew would have been gone without a single shot fired. When Marcinko showed his findings to the base commander, he wasn't met with a thank you. He was met with pure fury. Red Cell hadn't just exposed a few cracks in the armor, they had shattered the illusion of security and embarrassed a powerful officer. It was the first hint of the institutional anger that would eventually come for the unit. Now, you'd think after the shock at New London, the Navy would have immediately buttoned up its security. Red Cell was about to prove that assumption very, very wrong. With every successful operation, their attacks got bolder and their targets got bigger. If they could take out a nuclear sub, what couldn't they do? Could they get to the most protected asset in the world? In September 1985, they found out. Over Labor Day weekend, Red Cell learned that Air Force One was being kept at Naval Station Point Mugu in California, while President Ronald Reagan was at his nearby ranch. For anyone else, the presidential aircraft is untouchable. For Red Cell, it was just the next target on the list. The team spent a week slipping onto the base. They cut through fences, dodged patrols, and moved like shadows through an area that was supposedly on high alert because the president was nearby. The team successfully planted simulated explosives on several F/A 18 Hornet fighter jets. Then they went for the grand prize. In a security failure that is almost hard to believe, the SEALs stole a military truck, loaded it with 500 pounds of fake C4, and parked it right next to the ramp Air Force One would be using. The mock bomb was so large its simulated blast would have vaporized the plane. They had just successfully compromised the transportation of the President of the United States, and they filmed everything. Marcinko had a camera crew documenting every cut fence, every bypass lock, and every planted bomb. This wasn't just a report, it was a movie. They presented the footage to stunned base commanders, proving without a shadow of a doubt that the Navy's security was a paper tiger. Every single one of their attacks had been a success. Having proven they could snatch the Navy's most expensive hardware, Red Cell decided to go after a different kind of asset: people. They wanted to show that even the chain of command could be broken. And these next operations would become their most controversial, blurring the line between a training exercise and a real-world crime. During an exercise at Naval Station Norfolk, the team straight up kidnapped the base commander. They also nabbed 2 FBI agents who were role-playing as a foreign official and his wife. The commander was tied to a chair with fake explosives taped to him, a brutal demonstration of how easily a base's leadership could be taken out. But it was their final major operation in March 1986 that would seal their fate. The target was the Naval Weapons Station at Seal Beach, California. There, Red Cell's plan was to test the facility's defenses by targeting its civilian security chief, a man named Ronald Sheridan. At 3 a.m., Sheridan got a phone call telling him to come into work. When he stepped outside his home, he was confronted by Red Cell operators, who told him this was all part of the security drill. But what happened next went way beyond a normal test. Sheridan was taken to a motel and held for over 24 hours. Inside that motel room, the simulation became terrifyingly real. Sheridan was stripped, beaten, kicked, and dragged into the bathroom. The operators, staying in character as ruthless terrorists, repeatedly dunked his head into a toilet and a full bathtub to simulate drowning. The whole thing was caught on camera. At one point, Sheridan, afraid his ribs were broken, cried out in pain. This was the breaking point. While the kidnapping itself might have exposed a vulnerability, the physical abuse that followed served no real training purpose. It was a line that, once crossed, couldn't be uncrossed. The mission's credibility was shot, especially after it came out that Sheridan's wife had become so suspicious of the men outside her house that she'd armed herself and almost intervened before her husband could tell her it was just a drill. Red Cell had done its job better than anyone could have possibly imagined. They proved in vivid, undeniable detail that the U.S. Navy was catastrophically unprepared for a real terrorist attack. The problem? They had also made a lot of powerful enemies. The commanders and high-ranking officials they publicly humiliated weren't interested in learning lessons. They were interested in revenge. The Seal Beach incident was the weapon they needed. Ronald Sheridan, a civilian, sued the Navy and eventually settled out of court. The story of the brutal kidnapping gave Navy brass the perfect excuse to argue that Red Cell was out of control and that Marcinko was a reckless liability. The backlash was swift. The Navy started taking the unit apart, piece by piece. Their budget was slashed and impossible new rules were put in place. Red Cell operators, who depended on blending in, were now forced to wear clothes that identified them as a security team, making their realistic tests completely impossible. The vendetta didn't just end the unit, it went after the man who built it. Despite his legendary service founding both SEAL Team 6 and Red Cell, Richard Marcinko was hit with federal charges for conspiracy and fraud related to military contracts. He was convicted and sent to prison. To this day, many, including Marcinko himself, believe the charges were payback, a way for the Navy's top brass to settle the score for the humiliation he had served them. The story of Red Cell is a true paradox. It's about a mission that was so successful, it got the unit killed. They were hired to find failure, and they found it everywhere they looked. They broke into nuclear submarine bases, compromised Air Force One, and kidnapped senior personnel whenever they wanted. They were a necessary evil, a bitter pill the Navy simply refused to swallow. Were their methods extreme? Absolutely. And with the SEAL Beach kidnapping, they flew right past a critical line. But the weaknesses they found were very real. The unit was shut down around 1989, and its leader was put in jail. And yet, the idea of a red cell didn't die. After the 9/11 attacks, the CIA and other agencies brought the concept back, realizing how critical it is to have a team dedicated to thinking like the enemy and challenging your own biggest assumptions. Red Cell's legacy proves a difficult truth about security. Sometimes, the only way to know if your walls are strong enough is to have your own best guys try to tear them down. If you want more deep dives into the secret world of special operations and military history, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell, and let us know in the comments, what other clandestine mission should we uncover next?